Next up, we want to look at our two functions for moving the Goomba around with a little bit more logic. One of those is for chasing the player. And with chasing the player, we're actually trying to find where's the position of the player and moving our Goomba towards that direction. And then the other one we're going to look at is our go home. And the go home isn't really finding the player as much as it's going to find a spot or a location, which is sort of a home position for our Goomba, so that we can send our Goomba back into a certain direction based on its current position. So let's start off with our chase player. Let's look at this one. So if we're going to be trying to find out how or where our object is and make a comparison, we're going to be saying where is our player, and then where is the current position of our object, and where are they in relation to each other, and then what direction do I need to go based on that relationship. So for us, this is going to be a conditional statement. We'll say if. And let's start with the easy one. If what? If where am I currently at? And where I am right now is my transform dot position. So we'll say transform dot position, and the transform position is going to be our dot x. This is the one that we're working on right now. And what are we going to check for? If it's less than or equal to, and equal to what? What is this, the player? Well, the player is what basically we want as a chase target. This is the target we want to be chasing with our Goomba. So what we need to do is load up our player into our chase target. So let's go ahead and go into our actors. And inside of our actors, we have the player with the HUD and everything else. Then we have just the player. Let's just drag that prefab over to our chase target. That's going to set up our transform. If we'll go back up to our code at the top where we set up our variables, we can see that we have our chase target set as a transform. And the other one that we're going to see here is our home position. And we'll look at that one in just a minute. But with a focus on the chase target as a transform, we can go right back down here, and we're going to say if my current position on the x coordinate is less than or equal to the current position of my chase target. So how do we write that? Well, it's our chase target. We have our chase target. And what is our chase target on? This is our chase target dot position dot what? Dot x. Exactly. So with that conditional setup, we're checking for our current position, the current position of our chase target, and if it's less than that position, then that means what? That means we need to move our Goomba to the right and send him back towards our object so that he's chasing that object. So let's change our Goomba state. We'll change our Goomba state equals Goomba state dot, and what are we doing? We're moving right. That's the new state. So that gets us set up to move that direction. Well, let's go ahead and go in here. This is going to work good for that direction. Let's go ahead and copy that over, and what we're going to do is change it to the other direction. So we're saying if it's less than, so what we want to do is change it to if it's greater than the target position, then we're going to move our object to move left. That way, if he's on this side of the character, he's going to move back to the left. And with this, we can actually chase this character left and right. So let's save that one out. And in order to actually use this one, if we go up here to the states, you'll notice that we were using the move left and move right, but we don't actually have a chase setup inside of our switch statement. So the chase setup is something we've got to go into and say, well, how do we want to determine if the player is supposed to be chased by the Goomba? And this is where we want to use some kind of radius. We want to use some sort of range. And what we have set up with our variables, we have an attack range and a search range. So our search range is going to be the best one. This is where we're just saying, are we within a certain radius of the player? And if we are, then let's chase the player. So let's set that up inside of our update, because this is something that we do want to check for. And in here, we're doing just a conditional statement. We're just checking for the distance between two objects again. And this time we're checking for, is the player within the search range that we've got set up. So we're going to just do a distance to a target. Now, what is the distance to the target? Well, we need to find it so that we can actually check for it. So we'll go ahead and do our conditional. Just get the block set up for it. And then we'll think about how we can actually get a distance. And I believe we have done a distance before, but we'll set up our variable. We'll do a distance to target, which if we look up here, we have a distance to target, which is a float variable. And with our distance target, we're going to say distance to target equals what? Well, we want to get the distance from this object to this object. And inside of Unity, we have a distance function, so we're going to call this for a vector. We'll do a vector 3 dot distance. And to fill this one in, we can see in here we have a vector and a vector, and for us, we want this to be what? This is going to be our chase target. And our chase target is going to be dot transform dot position, and our other one is going to be our current transform position. Let's see if we can spell that right. So what are we doing here? We're basically finding the distance between these 2 points, making it equal to our variable here, just our float, to store that. And then we're going to take that, we're going to check. We're going to do a quick conditional in here. We're going to say if the distance to the target is what? If it's less than or equal to our search range, then let's run our function chase the player. We'll do chase player. And let's save that one out. And then we'll go on back to our build. It does say that we have one error in here at line 4096. 4096. Quick little semicolon right in there. Should clear us right up. There we go. And when we hit play, we can move the character around. When we do, aha, we can see that he's actually turning to face us and chase us in the direction. Okay, so far so good. So all we're doing is just checking for a position, and if it's greater than or less than our position, we're turning in a direction and then setting the state to move in that direction. Nice and simple so far.